Hello, everybody, and welcome to our History on Lean Six Sigma module. So today we're going to discuss the history of lean manufacturing, as well as its involvement to what we know as the total quality management system. And we'll also talk about industries such as Ford and Toyota. The history of Lean Six Sigma can be traced back to several key figures and concepts in the history of quality management and process improvement. Here are some of the examples. Ford's introduction of the assembly line in the 20th century revolutionized manufacturing. His focus on standardization, efficiency, and waste reduction laid the groundwork for later quality management and process improvement methodology. And then you have Walter Stewart, who's considered the father of statistical process control. He's an American engineer, statistician who made significant contributions to the field of quality management. One of the biggest things with Walter Stewart is he created the concepts of control charts. The next prominent figure is Edward Deming. Now, Deming furthered the concepts of statistical quality control and continuous improvement. He is known for his work in post-World War II Japan, where he taught statistical process control methods to Japanese engineers and managers. Deming's philosophy and methods heavily influenced the development of the Total Quality Management System, TQM, and subsequently Six Sigma. While the next person on this list sometimes often gets passed over, but Joseph Juran. Now, he's a quality management guru in the world of business and industry, and the role of quality is really, that's the focus as you start to see quality in America really shift towards the later 1900s. In the late 80s, you have Bill Smith, who coined the term Lean Six Sigma. And well, what's interesting about it was actually called 4.5 Sigma, but that doesn't roll off the tongue as well, so we have Six Sigma. And then I've revolutionized the way we go about education and streamlining credential programs for education across the world. I work with many universities, community colleges, and businesses to promote Lean Six Sigma operations. Lean Six Sigma in a nutshell is about process control and speeding up your process to remove the things that get in your way. Overall, when we look at the advancements in technology from Ford's Model T, to the development of AI integration and software, we really start to see the change happen in organizations. We're not relying on people to make processes work anymore, and we still need people as a point of operating, but AI is starting to become integrated into our systems and taking care of those monotonous, lower paid wage salaries. I say this because as technology grows, there's a few things that we need to take note of. We as organizations need to focus on what customers' requirements are. That continuous improvement mindset of improving an organization and constantly evolving it. Employee involvement, when you tell your employees something, that's one thing, but when you involve them, that's where real learning occurs. We want to have a centered process. We always want to be striving for that center point and not have much variation in our process. We want to be able to integrate systems to create a seamless transition for our customers. We want to create a strategic approach and not just throwing darts on a target. We want to have an overarching strategic goal. You hear things about a 30, 60, 90-day plan for leaders. If you're going into a leadership role, developing a strategic plan with your team. Data-driven decision making, using the tools and data to make effective decisions in the organization. And the next is communication. Communication, it's understood how much communication is needed to change an organization. So communicating and allowing us to look at the total quality management system in a holistic approach. I want you guys to pause the video and make sure you write down these 8 key points. When we look at lean and lean principles, there's a few things that we want to keep in mind. Number one, we want to define what value is. Well, who defines that? Well, that's going to be your customer, those surveys, those feedback forms, defining what they consider value. Next, we transition over to mapping what the value stream is in our process, where we look at operational management and we see efficiency, and then we see what non-value added time is. The next thing we want to do is we want to create flow in an organization. When we create flow, it gives us the ability to streamline our process. The next thing we want to do is we want to establish pull. Establishing pull is essentially your customers pulling that product through your process or your assembly. Followed by, lastly, that pursuit of perfection, that constantly evolving wheel of we're going to continually evolve this over time. And you'll see that these lean principles have not changed much throughout the years. It's still the same, but we start to add more technology, more AI for process maps, things of that nature. So a few important notes. We've got Edward Deming. Edward Deming created that 14 points of quality management. He created the plan, do, check, act cycle. We oftentimes get it confused with the OODA loop. Both the plan, do, check, act and the observe, orient, decide, and act are both cylindrical models used for continuous improvement and decision making, but they have different origins and applications. PDCA is rooted in quality management and is widely used in the business process. Now, OODA loop, as you guys might have heard, was developed by a military organization, Colonel John Boyd, I believe it was, but it's a troop management system. Now, when you hear OODA loop, it is essentially Deming's cycle. So plan, do, check / study, depending on what terminology or book you read, and act, right? This slowly becomes the DMAIC process in a sense, but I want you to keep note that, this is a good way to kind of strategize your plan in those 4 strategic steps: plan, do, check, act. Henry Ford, his Model T production line and his collaboration with Japan after World War II led to the creation of better quality management practices. This stemmed into the Toyota quality management system, which we'll talk about throughout the course. Another important note is Walter Stewart. He is the father of statistical process control, worked at Bell Laboratories, and helped popularize the theory of normal distribution. Technically, it's central limit theorem, but at this time, he kind of created that theory of the bell curve, which we see here, and we'll talk about as we go through. We talked about lean principles. Remember, define value, map the value stream, create the flow, establish pull, and pursue that perfection.